Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you are new here, my name is Joanne Bartolome. I am an owner at YEG Marketing, a social media marketing agency. Today, I'm going to be giving entrepreneurs and small business owners the top 8 tips I have when it comes to social media. If you're here, you're probably interested in other tips such as branding, marketing, and social media. So I would definitely appreciate it if you hit subscribe so that way when a new video comes out, you are in the know with the latest trends when it comes to marketing. When it comes to small business owners and entrepreneurs, I find that there are 3 main challenges when it comes to their social media. First is time, next is resources, and the last is money. Now, the tips I'm giving you today doesn't necessarily mean that you'd have to use a lot of money and that you don't need necessarily a lot of resources, but what you do need is a little bit of time. For a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs, especially just starting out, we do have to wear multiple hats, so these tips are for you. Which brings me to my first point, which is creating SMART and measurable goals. Why is this so important? And you probably have heard this before, but how many times we have business goals and sales goals, but not necessarily social media marketing goals? This is super important because if you don't align your social media marketing goals with your business goals, you'll definitely feel that disconnect. And I'm sure probably a lot of you have felt that before, where you feel like you have to show up on social media. You don't know exactly what you have to post, but you know you have to do it. And it just feels like a chore. But if you know that there's a SMART and measurable goal that you're trying to get, it makes you feel empowered to actually execute your social media and know with intentionality what content to put out. The second piece of advice is to create a social media toolkit. What does that look like? I'm going to show it up here on the screen for all of you, but a social media toolkit allows you to create different templates for your social media, so that way it's just a plug and play when you're actually going out to execute. On Canva, which is the greatest tool that I think would be very useful for all of you, that is very user-friendly, would be to create different Pinterest covers, to create IGTV covers, templates for YouTube. So that way when it goes down to executing, you have it all ready to go and it's consistent, and all you gotta do is put in the photos and execute at the end of the day. The third is to create searchable content. You probably came across this video because you were typing into YouTube how to etc. So how to execute my marketing strategy, how to be profitable in 2020, how to become a better entrepreneur. There are so many different pieces of searchable content that is very, very important. How to do this is that you can go to answerthepublic.com and put in your product or service. Here, you actually get to see what are people searching for when it comes to your business. Your job on social media is to answer those questions of your potential customer who are ready to make the sale. They may be still thinking about it, but you are creating trust with your customer by answering these frequently asked questions. You probably are thinking to yourself, well, there's so much. Now that I'm on answerpublic.com, there's so many questions that I need to answer. And working with entrepreneurs and business owners, I find that we are visionaries. We have so many ideas we want to execute and not enough time. That is why I would recommend the next piece would be a brain dump or a mind map. I would definitely recommend using MindMaster. It is a great tool online that you can use to do the mind map. But basically here, you're trying to make sure that you actually take all the ideas out of your head as a small business owner and put that in on paper. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to execute all these ideas right now. What I mean by this is that you have to put this all on a piece of paper so that you can be very intentional with your content. If you heard me talk before, I talk about the 80-20 rule, where basically 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And when you're going through the mind map, you notice that there are tons of things in there that you can probably cut out that aren't income producing. So being very intentional with your content and just laying it all out in a mind map will allow you to really focus and hone in on what you're good at and hone in on what actually brings in income. The fifth piece of advice I always say to everybody is that social media is meant to be social, so make time for engagement. What I mean is that every single day, try to spend 15 minutes commenting on all of your different social media platforms and creating a sense of engagement online. We usually recommend when you work with us the 10-10-5 rule, where you do 10 likes, 10 comments, either 5 direct messages or 5 shares. If you do that consistently every single day for 15 minutes on all your platforms, I guarantee you'll create an actual community online that will actually turn into sales at the end of the day. Now, talking about sales a little bit, you're probably thinking, well, what kind of content should I be putting out? I know I have to be answering these questions, but how should I do that? And that is where my 6th piece of advice comes in, and to focus on video content. As humans, we're very used to the idea of movement. We like the idea of human interaction. So video content will allow you to stand out, and I think it's very underutilized right now when it comes to small business owners and entrepreneurs. You get to position yourself as a market leader in your industry and a market expert just by the way that you present yourself. And I find that in itself will allow you to turn followers into leads just by the fact that you are able to present yourself so that people know, like, and trust you. Now you're probably hearing all this thinking, well, now I have so much to do. I have to create a social media toolkit. I have to research what my customer is looking for. I have to create goals. But when it comes to small business owners and entrepreneurs, I know that time is very, very valuable. And that is why systems and processes are very important. Which leads me to my 7th tip, and that is to really focus on what system and tools you are going to use to execute your ideas. If that means that you have to take a look out there for online platforms to schedule in your social media, absolutely, definitely do that. If that means that you have to go to veed.io, veed.io, and make sure that you actually put your video content on there so they have captions and it automatically does it for you, but you have to spend $20 a month, worth it to me. Last piece of advice that I think is very daunting to entrepreneurs is that we tend to focus in on things that we really, really are comfortable with. And that is why my last piece of advice is to try to go out there and venture into new platforms. Facebook and Instagram, I find, are the very popular type platforms that most businesses are on. And if you're not on there, definitely get a Facebook page and an Instagram page for your business. But a lot of times we do have those things as busy entrepreneurs, but we don't have other things such as LinkedIn, for example, Pinterest, and TikTok. These are other platforms that can really help bring in traffic to your website so that way you can convert customers. But I find that because it's new and because it's just out there and not comfortable, us as business entrepreneurs are going to put the effort in to learn a new platform. But there is definitely an advantage of being an early adopter in certain platforms, but there's also an advantage of going into a space that isn't as competitive when it comes to your social media. Remember, it's about income producing activities, not necessarily being about on all different platforms if you can't handle it. So it's definitely about reassessing which ones you want to be on, but definitely think outside the box because I guarantee that creativity will allow you to stand out from your competition. I know that was a lot for all of you, so thank you all for watching through all of it. I will be including in the links below all of the resources that I had mentioned and also some additional resources. Also, if you haven't yet, definitely check out the social media planner. So we have put together a social media planner where you're able to actually take all these ideas and put it into a written form so that way you don't feel so overwhelmed as a small business owner or entrepreneur, and it's something that you can always go back to. Think of it as your social media journal. Now, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It means the absolute world as a small business owner, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next video.